My wife mocked my salary at a party with her friends, so I quit silently, built my business, and now she's watching me succeed without her in my life. I'm a 31-year-old guy, and I honestly thought I was living a stable, happy marriage. Laura and I had been together for 4 years. No big fights, no secrets, just normal, at least. That's what I told myself. That night, she was hosting a dinner party for her friends' people she met through work. The kind who talk about networking like it's a religion. They all came in dressed like they'd stepped out of a lifestyle magazine, carrying expensive wine bottles and inside jokes about corporate retreats. I didn't fit in, but I tried. I smiled. I helped serve food. I laughed at the right moments. After dinner, conversation turned to jobs. One of her friends asked, "So what do you do?" I explained I was a logistics coordinator, that I'd been there 5 years, managing shipments and supply lines. Before I could even finish, Laura jumped in. "Oh, he's basically the king of saving pennies," she said, raising her glass. "Mr. Budget King? He tracks every grocery receipt like it's a national secret." Everyone laughed loudly. I froze. It was supposed to sound funny, I guess, but her tone had that edge. That little sneer that turned a joke into a dig. I looked at her, waiting for her to catch my expression. She didn't. She just kept smiling, swirling her wine. Basking in their laughter, I forced a laugh too, pretending it didn't sting. But inside, something cracked. I felt my face burn, my throat tighten, and I excused myself to the kitchen. As I stood there alone, hearing their laughter echo from the other room, I realized something I never wanted to admit. Laura didn't respect me. She pitied me, and once you see that kind of truth, you can't unsee it. The next morning, the house felt different, quiet but heavy. Laura hummed while making coffee, like nothing had happened. I sat at the table, staring at her, wondering if I should bring it up. My chest still burned from the humiliation of last night. "Hey," I finally said, "about what you said at the party calling me Mr. Budget King, that kind of hurt." She didn't even look up. "Well, come on," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear. It was a joke. Everyone was laughing. "Don't be so sensitive." That word sensitive cut deeper than the insult itself. I tried to explain that it wasn't the words, it was the tone, the way she said it. But she sighed, rolled her eyes, and muttered, "You're overthinking everything. It's not that deep." For the rest of the day, she acted like I was the one who ruined the mood. I tried to focus on work, but her laughter from the night before replayed in my head. Every chuckle, every smirk, looped like a cruel soundtrack. Over the next few days, I started noticing small things I hadn't before. She'd make comments about how so-and-so's husband just got promoted, or how it must be nice not having to worry about bills. It wasn't just teasing anymore. It was comparison. Judgment disguised as casual talk. I began coming home later, pretending I had extra shifts, just to avoid her. At dinner, our conversations shrank to a few polite words. I'd catch her scrolling on her phone, smiling at something, probably in her friend's group chat, the same ones who laughed at me. That night at the party hadn't been a one-time slip. It was the beginning of a slow unraveling, one that I could feel in the silence between us, and deep down. I knew silence can destroy more than words ever could. The weeks that followed felt like walking through fog. Laura and I barely spoke beyond logistics, groceries, bills, schedules. She still smiled in public, still posted our happy couple pictures online, but behind closed doors. We were strangers living under the same roof. I started staying late at work, pretending to catch up on reports. The truth was, I just couldn't stand being home. One night, as I was finishing up, my manager's old friend, Eric, a small business owner, stopped by to drop something off. He asked if I'd ever considered consulting on the side. I laughed at first, but he wasn't joking. "You're sharp with systems," he said. "Guys like you make businesses run. You could make real money helping smaller companies streamline their logistics. Ever think about doing it independently?" That one question stuck with me. The whole drive home, my mind was racing. For the first time in months, I felt possibility. It's not in a flashy way, but in that quiet, burning kind of wail, like a match lighting after too long in the dark. That night, while Laura was asleep, I opened my laptop and started researching. Freelance consulting, small business startups, logistics optimization. I read until dawn, heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. I didn't tell Laura. I knew exactly how she'd react. She'd laugh, tell me to be realistic, maybe even call it another one of my little projects. No, I wanted this dream untouched by her sarcasm. As the sun came up, I looked around our apartment, the polished furniture, the framed couple photos, the hollow life we'd built, and made a quiet promise to myself. If she saw me as small, I'd grow so big she'd have to watch from a distance. I wish I could say things got better after that, but they didn't. If anything, they got colder. Laura had started spending more time out, networking events, client dinners, catching up with friends. I never questioned her directly, but I knew what it really was. She wanted to be seen with people who made her feel important. At home, she still played the part of a good wife. Dinner on the table, polite conversation, forced smiles, but the warmth was gone. One night, as we ate in silence, she suddenly said, "You know, Rachel's husband just got promoted again. They're thinking of buying a second property." I didn't look up from my plate. "Good for them," I said quietly. She sighed, setting her fork down. "I just wish you'd be more ambitious sometimes. You're a good man, but you'll never be great if you don't take risks." The words landed like a knife, twisting slowly. "I'm doing my best, Laura." "Your best," she said softly, almost to herself, "just isn't enough anymore." I sat there frozen, my hands trembling slightly under the table. It wasn't anger I felt, it was clarity. Love can survive financial struggle, stress, even distance. But it can't survive disrespect. Later that night, I stood in the hallway watching her scroll through her phone in bed, the blue light painting her face. She was laughing softly at something on her screen, her smile effortless, carefree, the same smile that used to be reserved for me. That was when I knew the version of her I fell in love with no longer existed. Or maybe she did, and I just never saw who she truly was. Either way, something inside me shut off that night. Love without respect is just an illusion, and I was finally waking up. After that night, something inside me switched. I stopped trying to fix things with Laura. I stopped explaining myself, stopped hoping for her approval. Instead, I started building in silence. Every evening after work, I'd sit at the kitchen table with my laptop open, pretending to scroll through news or emails. In reality, I was writing proposals, reaching out to small business owners, and teaching myself marketing and finance through free online courses. Even picked up a few freelance gigs, small, low-paying ones, but enough to test what I was capable of. When Laura asked why I was spending so much time online, I lied easily. "Just extra work," I'd say, not looking up. She'd shrugged, barely interested. That suited me perfectly. The less she cared, the more I could move in the shadows. There was something strangely liberating about it being underestimated. Her constant dismissal became my shield. Every sarcastic comment, every eye roll fueled me. The man she thought was small was quietly building the foundation of something she'd never understand. I started keeping a separate savings account, small deposits at first, then bigger ones as the side gigs grew. Watching the balance rise gave me a feeling I hadn't experienced in years: control. Real, tangible control over my life. One night, as I was typing away, Laura walked in wearing a new dress. "I'm heading out with friends," she said, grabbing her purse. I glanced up, smiled faintly, and said, "Have fun." She looked almost surprised, maybe expecting jealousy or confrontation, but I didn't care where she went anymore. My focus wasn't on her approval, it was on freedom. And as the door clicked shut behind her, I whispered to myself, "Keep going, because the best revenge doesn't come from anger, it comes from evolution." It happened on an ordinary Tuesday night. I came home earlier than usual because one of my clients rescheduled. The apartment was dark, except for the warm glow of the living room lamp. I heard Laura's voice drifting from the balcony, soft, amused. The tone she used when she wanted to impress someone. I froze when I caught a few words. "Yeah, he still makes the same old salary. Bless his heart, he tries, but ambition just isn't in his DNA." There was a pause, then laughter, hers, followed by another woman's voice on speaker. "You're too much, Laura." She giggled. "Well, someone's got to be honest. I swear, sometimes I feel like I'm raising him, not married to him." Something in me went cold. My fingers curled into fists as I stood there, hidden in the hallway, listening to my wife turn my life into entertainment. I should have walked out, confronted her, screamed. But I didn't. I just stepped quietly back into the shadows, every word searing into me like a brand. That wasn't just disrespect anymore. It was betrayal. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, playing her voice over and over. By morning, I felt hollow but clear. I realized that I didn't need to argue for my dignity. I didn't need to prove anything to her anymore. Instead, I decided on something she'd never see coming. I would build quietly until the day she wouldn't even recognize the man she mocked. So I doubled my hours, took on bigger projects, networked with anyone willing to listen. The exhaustion was brutal, but so was my resolve. If she thought she was raising me, she had no idea how fast I was outgrowing her world entirely, and I couldn't wait for the day. She'd have to watch it happen without me. Months passed, and the distance between us became a canyon. We barely touched, barely talked, and when we did, it always circled back to money, hers, mine, or someone else's. She'd drop hints about luxury vacations. Her friends were planning or show me designer handbags just to look. Now, one night, over dinner, she dropped her fork and sighed dramatically. "Can we be honest for once?" she said. "I just don't understand how you're okay being average. Don't you ever want more?" I put my fork down slowly. "More of what, Laura?" "Stuff approval?" "Pretending." She gave me that tight, condescending smile I'd come to despise. "No, more life, ambition, drive. I mean, look at Rachel's husband. He's running a regional branch now. You're still doing whatever it is you do." My jaw clenched. "I'm building something, Laura." She laughed, actually laughed. "Building what?" "Dreams don't pay bills." And she looked right at me and said the words that ended everything. Maybe I married down. It felt like time stopped. I stared at her, waiting for her to flinch, to realize what she'd just said. But she didn't. She went back to eating like she hadn't just shattered the last piece of us that night. After she went to bed, I sat alone at the kitchen table with my laptop open and my heart numb. There was nothing left to save. The man she mocked was gone. The one she created was about to make sure she regretted it. I started planning my exit, quietly, strategically, not just from her, but from the version of me she'd built her ego around, because if she thought she'd married down, she'd soon learn what it felt like to be left beneath. I hit my lowest point a few weeks after that dinner. The tension in the house was suffocating. We barely looked at each other anymore. I'd wake up, go to work, grind through my side business, and collapse at night feeling like a ghost living in my own home. My savings were running thin. A few clients had delayed payments, and I was behind on rent for my small office space. I sat there one night, staring at my bank account, nearly empty, and felt something inside me crack. "What's the point?" I muttered to myself. My hands were shaking as I closed the laptop. For a few minutes, I thought about giving up on everything. Maybe Laura was right. Maybe I was just a dreamer destined to stay small. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Eric, my mentor. Just 2 words: keep going. I don't know how he knew I needed that, but I stared at those words for a long time. Then I remembered something he told me months ago over coffee. Success is quiet until it's loud. Don't stop before it echoes. Those words hit me like oxygen in a burning room. I opened my laptop again, wiped my face, and started working harder than ever. I emailed every contact I'd made, reached out for new contracts, fixed every flaw in my business model. I stopped waiting for approval from Laura, from anyone. The exhaustion was still there, but it felt different now. It wasn't hopelessness, it was hunger. Laura barely noticed the change. She still scrolled through her phone, still rolled her eyes when I came home late. But I wasn't the same man walking through that door anymore. Because when you hit rock bottom, there are only 2 choices: break apart or build a foundation. I was done breaking, The shift didn't happen overnight, but when it did, it was like watching a door finally unlock. One of my old freelance clients referred me to a regional company struggling with logistics. I pitched a proposal, half expecting rejection. Instead, they offered me a contract that paid more in a month than my job did in 3. I remember sitting in my car afterward, gripping the steering wheel, laughing like I'd lost my mind. For the first time in years, I wasn't surviving, I was winning. Within weeks, word started spreading. My consulting business picked up clients faster than I could handle. I hired 2 part-time assistants, upgraded my workspace, and reinvested everything I earned. Every deposit into my account was proof that Laura's words no longer defined me. But I didn't tell her. Not a word. She still thought I was dragging through the same old routine, still coming home with that same safe paycheck. The irony of it all kept me calm whenever she made another snide remark. One night, as she was scrolling through social media, she sighed. God, Rachel's husband just got featured in a magazine. He's really made it. I looked at her and smiled faintly. Yeah, I said. Good for him. She didn't notice the quiet confidence in my voice. She didn't know I'd just signed my biggest contract yet, one that would set me up for good. I started quietly moving my finances into a new account, one she couldn't access. I wasn't just saving money. I was buying freedom. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to defend myself or prove anything, because soon I wouldn't have to say a word. The results would speak for me, and when they did, I wanted her to hear them loud and clear. Laura decided to host another dinner party, that month, same group of friends. Same polished laughter, same shallow conversations about promotions and luxury getaways. I played along, just like before. But this time, I wasn't the man standing in the shadows. I was the man quietly holding every card. When her friends asked how work was going, I smiled. Busy, actually. Things are picking up. Laura chuckled, swirling her wine. Still being our responsible Mr. Budget King? She teased like the first time hadn't broken something between us. But I didn't flinch. I just smiled back and said, something like that? The next morning, while she slept in, I packed a small suitcase, just essentials. Laptop documents, a few clothes. My resignation letter was already submitted weeks ago. My business was running full-time now. I'd found a small apartment downtown, nothing extravagant, but mine entirely. On the kitchen counter, I left a handwritten note. You wanted more? Go find it. That was it. No long explanations. No bitterness. Just the truth. I placed my wedding ring beside it and walked out the door. The silence in that moment was deafening. No shouting, no tears, no last-minute goodbyes. Just the soft sound of the lock clicking behind me. For the first time in years, I felt weightless. The air outside smelled cleaner, the world quieter. I drove away without looking back, my phone buzzing non-stop in the passenger seat. I didn't answer. By the time she realized I wasn't coming back, I was already signing papers for a major new client. My life had already shifted into a new orbit, one where her voice didn't echo anymore. The silence that once broke me was now my freedom. It's strange how quickly peace can replace chaos when the noise is gone. After I left, everything in my life began to align, like the universe had been waiting for me to finally choose myself. My business took off faster than I could have dreamed. The company that had first hired me referred to others. And within 6 months, I was consulting full-time for multiple firms across the state. For the first time, I was waking up excited. No tension, no judgment, no silent competition. Just clarity. I poured everything into my work-long hours, endless learning, pure focus, and it paid off a year later. I was sitting in my new office glass windows overlooking the city when a journalist from a local business magazine interviewed me for a feature titled "The Man Who Built Success from Silence." I didn't realize how poetic that was until I saw the issue in print. That's how Laura found me again. The first message came through email. Saw your article. Proud of you. I didn't reply. A week later, another one. I've been thinking a lot lately. Maybe we could talk? Still nothing. Then came the late-night text. I made a mistake. I stared at the screen for a long time. I could almost hear her voice, the same one that once called me Mr. Budget King. But now, she wasn't laughing. I didn't block her. I didn't respond either. Some stories don't need an ending, they just fade where they deserve to. The best part? I didn't need revenge anymore. My success was the revenge, and the silence she once mocked had become the loudest. Sound in both our lives, I never heard from Laura again after that last message. And honestly, I didn't need to. Her absence felt like peace, not loss. It's strange how healing doesn't always come from confrontation. Sometimes it comes from finally having nothing left to prove. Life moved forward, beautifully quiet. My company grew. I hired a full team. I even started mentoring young entrepreneurs who reminded me of myself, hungry, underestimated, and tired of being told they weren't enough. Every time I saw that spark in someone's eyes, I remembered the man sitting in his car years ago, humiliated at a dinner table and determined to rise anyway. One evening, I passed by the restaurant where Laura once hosted that infamous party. The laughter drifting from inside hit me like a distant echo. For a second, I almost saw her, their wine glass in hand, surrounded by her polished crowd. But instead of bitterness, I felt gratitude. She taught me something no one else could, that love without respect is just a slow death in disguise. That silence, when used right, can be the sharpest response. I walked away that night smiling, not because I won, but because I finally understood that real success isn't about revenge or validation. It's about peace. It's about standing in a life you've built with your own hands and knowing you don't owe your past a single word. As I watched the city lights flicker against the night sky, I whispered to myself, "You made it." Not because I proved her wrong, but because I finally proved myself right. And for the first time in years, the silence didn't hurt. It sounded like freedom.